We're here at Outsiders and Others Gallery in the Elliott Park neighborhood of Minneapolis to introduce this lucky number 7th episode of Access to Art, produced by Minneapolis Television Network to give you an indication of the breadth and depth of art activities in our fair city, from the small collective gallery to the big deal art institution. And our first episode is called 360 Goes Rogue. And Gallery 360 got together with Rogue Buddha Gallery to have a number of artists, 36 of them in fact, address the dark passion of the rogue heart. This segment features interviews with the gallery owners, some of the artists, and showgoers as well.
Well, Rogue Buddha and 360 have something in common in that they're both small and intimate galleries. They like to really support the local art scene, and that's a wonderful thing for beginning artists, for people who have an idea and want to put it out there and aren't sure if they want to develop it into a bigger show to take to bigger venues.
Owner of Gallery 360. We're in the southwest area of Minneapolis, and Nicholas and I have been friends for many, many years. You know, both gallery owners, starting businesses at about the same time.
So this is kind of the culmination of, I would say, about 2 years of talking about we should do something together and collaborate and just try and create something different and new.
The theme of tonight's show was kind of a Black Hearts Valentine's theme, so the artists were given this idea of Black Valentines and just, you know, given this idea just to run with. And they came up with some incredibly creative, twisted, fun pieces of artwork that I'm so happy to have here, and I think it's a really good representation of everybody's abilities.
I'm a printmaker. I'm Australian. I trained in Australia as a printmaker. My piece here is a monotype. A monoprint is sort of like a print that you paint. There's just one of them. You print it. It's not like a normal printing process like intaglio, etching, lithograph. You just get one of it.
I've done, you know, craft shows and creating and making things, I mean, since I was a kid, but as far as the gallery, I started last Christmas. The medium that I use to work is, I like old barn board, just anything old and weathered that has character. And then I like to incorporate our old photographs into that, so that it has an old, worn feel to it. So.
Al Wadzinski's heart shape with all the metal shavings, I thought that was really cool. Yeah. What I like to check out? More things that are more on edge, more dynamic. I guess pushing the boundaries. Things that make me question what I'm looking at.
I think we've got a really, really wonderful, strong arts community here, and there's so much to choose from.
We're in the retail space of Outsiders and Others, and I am here with the co-founder and director, Yuri Arajs. Recently, I learned, Yuri, that after 4 years of being a pivotal arts figure in our community, you're going to move on to other things. But first, tell me a bit about where Outsiders came from.
Outsiders and Others was co-founded with myself and Beth Peloff. You know, she just seemed like the obvious person to approach to open a gallery. March of 2003, we opened our doors in Elliott Park.
In a funeral home.
In a funeral home.
Nice touch, you know, because it's the dead art that gets all the attention. And ironically, you play with that because you've shown a couple hundred artists?
We've shown in 4 years over 400 artists.
It's astonishing.
It
And
is.
you haven't only impacted the existing arts community, you've grown and created new audiences and markets for artists whose work otherwise wouldn't have been seen by anyone.
Definitely, definitely.
Off-Leash Area Contemporary Performance Works is an experimental theater company that produces all original pieces combining theater, dance, and movement. Each year they produce a piece out of their 2.5-car garage. A recent play, Maggie's Brain, about a woman with schizophrenia, was in fact mounted at the Playwrights Center. Access to Art recently attended a performance and afterwards interviewed the two co-artistic directors.
We're really interested in really deep emotional kinds of subject matter. And so this last show that we did, Maggie's Brain, dealing with schizophrenia, certainly goes into that realm. And we weren't interested in pursuing schizophrenia from an intellectual viewpoint of trying to discuss what it is and all the details of it, but that emotional place that it can go to.
So our company is called Off-Leash Area, Contemporary Performance Works, a cross-disciplinary, movement-based dance and theater company.
We really took the time to find the right name, and it was one of those kind of hit you over the head moments. We went to the dog park with our dog one day, as we do many, many times, and just said, "Oh, that's it!" And so,
the fact that we're off-leash means, again, that we can work in whatever style we want, as long as we're skilled at it and it's successful. And there's something, in a dog park, there's something playful and slightly dangerous about a dog park, You never know when two dogs meet, what in their nature will set them off or make them best friends. And, that's exciting. We try to do that in our work, too. I wanted to found a company that did what I hadn't done before. And so I put up notices at dance studios looking for dancers to work with, because dancers were very movement-based and extremely disciplined, usually, but they didn't do what I did in the theater world. So I hired Jennifer for this first show, and it was clear after like 2 weeks of working that we had a really special relationship in the studio, working together creatively. And people who had come to see a work in progress of that show immediately said, "So how many years have you been working together?" And it had been, months, a couple months. And I think from that point on, immediately, the company was Jennifer Isles and Paul Herwick. It was my company for 2 months. And then after that, it was our company. We've created about 12 original productions. We do 2 to 3 productions a year, one large-scale work like Maggie's Brain, which is a cast of 4, 5 to 12 with original music on a large stage for a 3-week run at a rented space. And then we've turned our 2.5-car garage into a small 40-seat black box theater called Our Garage. We have a raised stage and a lighting system and a makeshift lighting grid, and we have curtains, and we have 40 small folding chairs that we squeeze into the garage. And people absolutely love the work that we're doing. And they're so close to the performance that they really feel like they're on stage with us and they're part of what's happening. We did it kind of as a lark for something fun that would sort of liberate us from having to spend a lot of our own money on a large production, which we had been doing. I love to say that, in New York City, nobody has a garage. It's a very Midwestern thing to do.
Maggie's Brain was a show that came from me, especially because, of course, because my brother has paranoid schizophrenia. Whatever subject it is that we are working on. We really dig very, very deeply into it. By talking with so many different people involved, as people who have it themselves and people who work with it, to really come to an understanding that makes sense to me, so that I felt I could create something from that.
The characters who played the voices in Maggie's head, what we call the mind characters, were mostly dance performers, and the performers who played the family were mostly theater performers.
So we, at the beginning, just came with lots of information about where we were coming from, what this particular scene basically was going to be, and we would let them improvise and create the scenes quite substantially on their own and create their own characters.
We were told, you know, be very careful that you don't fall into the trap that so many artistic entities, both individuals and organizations, fall into, which is to start creating work to get the funding. And it's very difficult to not do that because it's really hard work. And, you know, we have 2 day jobs each. We imagine we'll always have at least one. We'd like to lose one eventually.
There are you know, those artists that do refuse to compromise, and that eventually, you know, that by taking the long, hard road, they do eventually get funding and they do get support. But it's just the longer, harder road, and I think that's the one we've chosen.
This is a perfect piece to show out, is because Amy Rice is one of the artists that we've worked with the most over the last 4 years. I've worked with her before then as well, but Amy's been able to really take her work beyond being a street graffiti artist. She's grown into a really significant fine artist, and Amy now, through working with us over the 4 years and with other galleries, is now a nationally and internationally shown and recognized artist.
Wonderful stuff in juxtapose and everything else. Only the graffiti on the street suffers for the progress of her career.
It's a great thing because we are able to, such as Amy, take artists who are unrecognized at the time of the early of their career, in the early stages of their career, and we've been able to be a real stepping stone for a lot of artists. You know, there's artists that we work with that live with mental illness. We work with a lot of homeless artists. We work with really, really diverse communities, and I feel really proud that when it comes to the concept of equality for artists and humans and everything, I really think we've done a really great job on playing the equality card in an equal way.
And I have to say, so many people are now known around town who never would have been known. And let's look at the other side of the equation, which is simply what's next for you.
For me, after the gallery closes, which is March 10th, I'll be doing freelance curating work throughout the town. I'm going to be doing shows at various galleries, take vacant warehouses, do bigger shows, broader shows, show more artists nationally, locally, continue to do that. And I'll continue to run my mentorship program for artists with disabilities, which I've done for many, many years now, and a bunch of other projects which will start to arise.
I like that. As this place closes, you already have booked way too much for any human to handle. I salute you, I respect you, and we love you, and we'll miss you, and we'll see you really soon as well.
Look forward to it,
Thanks,
Tom.
Yuri.
Thank you.
Young Dance is a nonprofit that gives dance lessons and performances to youth from preschool to grade 12. They get students to express themselves, do their own choreography, dance around, flail about, do wonderful artistic things, and they have several performances each year, with one coming up, a spring show, May 17th through the 19th. Access to Art recently visited Young Dance when they had a guest artist dancer and a musician on hand.
Young Dance because you can express yourself and it feels like you have a family around. It's just sort of like a world of friends.
We start teaching them young, and we start teaching them, you know, to think about movement in a different way, and for them to be developing their own understanding of how physical movement is conceptualized, is abstracted, is developed into pieces of art that really let them say something as artists.
I got involved in Young Dance at the September of last year, and it's really been a life-changing experience.
Modern dance can be so many different things, and a lot of people have their unique takes on it.
A lot of these guys come in, they have no modern, they don't even know what it is, you know, but they have a deep desire to develop and create, and that's what we're looking for.
I've been involved in Young Dance since I was 8 because my parents stopped going to soccer games because they didn't like being eaten by mosquitoes.
What we try to do is match up programming that has a combination of both technical, where we work on the technical skills, and also on the choreographic skills, because I think that is what's really important, I think, at this age, is to be able to do self-expression.
I love dance because if there was a bad thing that happened at school or I was just really mad, then I can just take out all my feelings in dance, and I like that.
And I like dance because you just get to move.
I think they really learn, even at a young age or experience, that movement is a means of self-expression, and it's not just about copying what someone else does.
And I like dance because it's relaxing to me, and I like to perform.
And the kids that are here are just phenomenal. Some of them have been, you know, around for 10 years.
I really like our teachers, Carly and Gretchen are awesome, and I just really like moving and being creative.
We get a lot of kids from the Minneapolis Public Schools.
There's a lot of creative movement, and you can make up your own stuff, and everybody knows everybody.
I think Young Dance attracts a certain type of kid, and I think that type of kid is very inquisitive, is very into physical movement. They don't have to be trained in ballet or any other types of forms, but that they have just this sheer desire to articulate ideas through movement.
I like it because it's athletic, but it's not competitive.
They're really committing to being part of a family or a group.
It's total freedom to do what you want within this huge community of friends and like we're pretty much a second family for a lot of people.
This performance is very different than rehearsal, and we want to get them ready to go. Okay, we're in this rehearsal mode, but how do we take that next step into performance, and how do we keep the balance between the two?
We have one performance in the spring, our kind of the end of the year big performance in the spring. This year it's called Molecules of Music, and every year we focus our programming on one theme or idea.
I really like Young Dance because it's a chance for us to work together and create movements.
And today we have a workshop with Megan Flood and Dean McGraw on the relationship between dance and music.
And we were working with a couple different approaches to improvisation, working from a really first anatomical base, so they were working with their skin, their bones, their muscles. We were also specifically working with listening, so listening to music, but the way that we got into that was by listening to the world, basically, and then listening to Dean, and actually using Dean's playing to inspire movement or stillness.
It's been interesting to try and match my movements to a certain musical style because it involves thinking more internally because I have to focus on what I'm doing, but you also have to focus externally on what the musician is doing.
So they're learning the art of improvisation, and they're working with Dean. It's just a phenomenal guitarist who is helping them think through how to improvise with sound, and then so that once they start to set their own choreography, they're able to develop a much deeper level of understanding and meaning.
The dancers had a chance to work together in small groups, making something of their own. Working with all the improvised structures that we use today. And then they got to talk with Dean about how they imagined music supporting what they had just created.
It's cool that everybody is involved about like one dance.
This was really great because we had a whole bunch of tools and it was It was kind of like, you know, dance from a hat almost. Just pick something that we did today and then just do it.
I couldn't remember all the different scores and all the choreography, and Megan was sitting next to me and breathing into my ear different instructions. The easy part is watching the movement and being focused on that and letting that just come out as musical expression.
I think one thing that we were really trying to get at was that working with a live musician or with live music is very different than working with recorded music, so that there's really a conversation. It's a collaboration, and I really felt like they got that. I mean, they're an amazing, amazing group of artists.
I feel like it's helped me improve just my entire well-being.
I really see dance as a way to understand one's body. It's not about how fast you can do something or how many times you can turn or how high you can jump, but it's about the dance that is rooted in a meaning, and that meaning gets expressed through movement. I think I've developed kind of a passion around that because I'm working with kids.
When I was in the 2nd or 3rd or 4th grade, I was not a big fan of it, but my parents wouldn't let me quit. And now being here has really paid off, so that I like being here a lot.
Neither of us were really trained like this. We both came to dance through other things, but went a kind of classical route of having modern and jazz and ballet classes. What's been super exciting is to begin to see that what we've been teaching from what we really believe in. And now we're seeing that it really works as we look at our older high school dancers who are turning into really fine dancers, and fine dancers who are caring about their line and caring that the technique is executed in a way that fulfills what they're trying to do. But it didn't come from, this is how you do a turn, and this is how you make your jump high. It came from, this is what I want to express, and I need more tools to be able to express it.
Homewood Studios is an artist's workspace and community gallery in North Minneapolis. They recently hosted a quilting show where Northside artists showcased some historic, intricate patterns from the Underground Railroad to the Carpenter's Wheel to more modern designs.
I'm one of the owners here at Homewood Studios with my wife Beverly. Bought this building. It was boarded and vacant, and I thought our community deserved something more than that. So we said, yes, we'll go ahead and invest in this idea of a small community art center. Mirthlyn Collins has been a member of a Tai Chi class that meets here every Saturday and has for several years. And Mirthlyn said, I'd like to teach a quilting class. Would you like a quilting class here? And that's exactly the kind of use we foresaw for Homewood Studios. And as someone in the community comes and says, we really needed this space, but now we could do what we're passionate about. So she began teaching a quilting class about 4 years ago.
This is the first quilt show, so I'm hoping that we could start an annual quilt show. I want this show to grow into like maybe teaching young people how to quilt.
I've always wanted to quilt. I wanted to quilt since I was probably in junior high, and my mother said it was very time consuming and she didn't have the time to teach me. And so I just decided as an adult that, you know, Mirthlyn, as you can see from her pieces, she has a real talent for it, and I decided I was going to try it, and that's why I did it.
Well, I think how quilting came about is just, it started with the term piecing and using your old clothes if you're poor and you just put things together, especially back in slavery, they didn't throw anything out and just kind of make piecing and you piece them together and then you could make covering for your bed or what have you. Back during the Underground Railroad, one of the ways that the slaves knew where to go is that people used quilt for directions. They use different patterns of quilts. You have to think about a slave who can't read, but you got your eyes and you can see stuff. It's the flying geese quilt. The quilt told the slaves as they run away to listen for the sound of the geese and follow that sound because they're going north. If you saw a quilt with a sailboat in it that was on a sailboat, you knew which sailboat was safe to go on. When you really look at a pattern and you could really see the logic in it, it makes sense. That's what got me interested in doing a show, to showcase, to talk about it. And now quilting is just like a big thing. It's huge. I can't believe it, but yeah. So I think people quilted out of necessity, and now people quilt just because they want to.
There are 5 studios that artists rent on a yearly basis. The whole idea is that we create a small community of artists here. They all live in the neighborhood. All the artists who have studios here live primarily within walking distance, and so we have a neighborhood coalition of artists who can be as concerned about community issues as about artistic issues.
The hand quilting I really like. I can spend hours just sitting with the big hoop going through the little squares. That part I like a lot. So I decided to ask, what do you want to call your piece? And I said, free at last. I said, because I finally got it done. I can move on to something else.
If you're seeing this before March 10th, there's still a chance for you to get down to Outsiders and Others Gallery, which, alas, as you can see here, closing party Saturday, March 10th. If you're watching this afterwards, it's already the late great. Look for more in the future from these fine artists. And thanks for joining us for another episode of Access to Art. You can see it every Tuesday night, 8:30 on Channel 17. Free speech rules. Corporate media sucks. Ah, that sounds good in the background. Sounds like commerce. Art and commerce. Never the twain shall meet, though we desperately want it to. It's the inflow of money that just doesn't happen in spite of our best efforts. Art in, art out. All broke. I did have a joke, and I was going to ask you that. How many actors to screw in a light bulb?
How many?
6. 1 to screw in the light bulb, and 5 others to say, that should be me up there. And the ether, if the walls are speaking back a little bit too much. I think it's the Jowly effect. I aged into creating my own echo chamber. I got little canyons in my cheekbones.
I'm such a failure. I can't do this right. I can't do this anymore.